Hey guys, this is Josh. I've got coffee number 2 down, and after going over this material several times and kind of weeding through where documentation is a little off, etc., I think I'm finally ready to take you guys on a stroll through how to set up voicemail for your cloud PBX in Skype for Business Online. The caveat to this is that cloud PBX functionality is still in preview. If you are not part of the preview program, you will not see the Skype voice section within your Skype for Business admin center online. And the only way to get into that preview program is by going to www.skypepreview.com. And you can fill out a form there to request access, and someone at Microsoft will manually review that and decide whether or not to add you into the preview or not. I'm not sure how they figure out who gets in, who doesn't, whatever. But fortunately, I signed up right when the preview came out. I got in and actually did a blog post a while back on configuring Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. It's got screenshots, a detailed step-by-step walkthrough. Head on over to blog.msucguy.com to check that out if you are in the preview program and want to see how to get that set up and rolling. Excuse me. Today, we will be going over how to set up voicemail for users who already have that in place. So again, I'm not going to be going over how to set up Cloud PBX with PSTN calling for your users. We're assuming that's already in place. I'm going over how to add in voicemail to that feature set. Enterprise voice features on premises obviously are superior still, and there is much more functionality there than there is in Office 365. But things are getting closer. Cloud PBX with PSTN calling, dial-in conferencing, online Office 365. It's getting closer to bringing those enterprise voice features to online-only users. Without too much more yammering, I just wanted to say I'm starting a new format today. We're using Google Hangouts instead of Screen-O-Matic. I just did one video on Screen-O-Matic, and it was good, but I think Google Hangouts is going to be the format that I'm going to stick with, at least for the time being. Maybe one of these days we'll venture over to Skype for Business meeting broadcasts and see what that's all about. But for now, Google Hangouts it is. All right, the agenda. What we're going to do is go over to a TechNet article and then a PowerShell.office.com article to show you what all the PowerShell steps are going to be for connecting to your Office 365 environment with remote PowerShell. And then we're going to go take a look at our portals really quick in Office 365. We're going to take a look at the user account, take a look at the individual Skype for Business and Exchange admin centers, so that you can see what they look like before and after we run all the necessary commands to set up voicemail. Without further ado and yammering, no pun intended on the yammering, let's jump over to our Cloud PBX. Let me share up my screen here. I forget I got to do that. Okay, here we go. Here you can see we have the TechNet article for enabling Cloud PBX voicemail for your Cloud PBX users. As you can see, the Skype for Business Server 2015, that is what this applies to. It does not apply to Link 2013. So if you're still on that old platform, you're going to have to upgrade and for now get into the preview in order to test all this out. Moving on down, we see in bold their disclaimer that this is preview documentation for a feature currently in testing. Preview, preview, preview. If you want to join the preview, go over to www.skypepreview.com. All right, moving past the preview disclaimers, we have the actual steps. There are 6 in total here, as numbered anyway. And the first one is going to be opening up PowerShell as an administrator. As you'll see, we're going to be logged into our virtual machine as the administrator, so we're just going to open up PowerShell from there. And then we'll walk through each of these commands as we get there. And I'll call out some caveats about the way this page currently shows up. I've got to give some feedback, actually, to let Microsoft know where I see a couple spots that are off or misleading here. and one spot this is actually just plain old not correct. That what we need, they probably want to correct. Moving past this page, we've got our connecting to Skype for Business Online, and this really pretty much, for the most part, mirrors the initial steps on the TechNet article for connecting to Exchange Online. This just gets us connected to Skype for Business Online. And I have these up because we're going to go over and copy each of these commands out rather than us sitting there watching me type these all out. Some of these are a little bit lengthy, as you can see. Moving over to our portals. First, we've got our Office 365 Admin Center, and as you can see, I'm looking at my active users here. I am the only active user in this particular tenant, and this is my actual email address. You guys can feel free to reach out to me if you ever want to just get in touch or have questions or whatever. Josh@msucguy.com. We're going to see that address come up several times throughout configuration today. I want to take a look at licensing really quick here. Now, what's important is that, as you can see, I have the Office 365 Enterprise E1 license. I got this because it gave me the full suite plus Skype for Business Online Plan 2, which was necessary for Cloud PBX functionality. So I thought I was good to go. Well, as I get partway into this testing and run some of the commands that they show to run, I start getting some license validation errors, and come to find out, you have to have Exchange Online Plan 2 for unified messaging. I did not know that, did not remember that from studying for the tests, etc. So just a heads up there, if you're going to go through this process and you've got Skype for Business Online Plan 2, you also need to have Exchange Online Plan 2 for it to work. And you can also see up here my Skype for Business Domestic and International Calling. I need that. That's part of the preview program in order to be able to make these calls out of that number. So let's cancel out of the licensing here. And let's jump over to our Skype for Business. To get over to Skype for Business Admin Center and Exchange Admin Center, just click on their respective links down here under Admin, which I've already done. And here we are, Skype for Business Admin Center. I'm on the Skype Voice tab here, which is only present if you're part of the preview. So if you are not part of the preview program, do not worry that you do not see that. It is not there yet for all users, for all tenants, I should say. Within this, we've got a phone number section and a voice user section. Phone numbers is where we can go and accommodate new, or I should say acquire new phone numbers. As you can see, I've only acquired the one, and it is true for assigned. And I've got a 512 area code, which is Austin in the United States. And on voice users, we see myself again, Josh Blaylock, with that 512 area code. I am going to change this number just for anyone interested and maybe checking it out later, or if you're a prankster at heart or any of those things, this number won't be valid after this broadcast. So just putting that out there. All right, that's what we've got set up in Skype for Business Online at this point. Hopping over to the Exchange Admin Center, we go down to Unified Messaging on the left, and then up top, we're at dial plans. As you can see, nothing is in here. We are starting from scratch with the dial plans. There is zilch. So now that we've seen the portals, let's hop on over to the actual virtual machine. There are a number of icons over here on the left that you don't need to pay much attention to. They're pretty much just Azure AD Connect related. I use this same VM for setting up the series on hybrid options with Azure AD using Azure AD Connect. So if you're interested in that was my last series that I went through. SSO with Active Directory Federation Services, user write back, password write back, all kinds of cool stuff. Check it out. For now, let's perform that first step and get a PowerShell window going here. The first thing we got to do is connect to Exchange Online. So let's go back and start copying and pasting, like I had said we were going to do. First, we're going to create a user credential variable. And this user credential variable we are going to call with get credential. All right, so when we do that, it gives us a little pop-up where we need to put in the credentials of a user in our Office 365 tenant. Please keep in mind that this is not just any user. It needs to be a user who is an administrator in that tenant. my case, I've got this one user, period, and that is my administrator. So we're in, it's storing those credentials in that variable. Let's go back and create another variable called session, in which we are going to store a new PowerShell session using those credentials. And as you can see, again, we're connecting to Exchange at this connection URI, outlook.office365.com. And yeah, using the credentials. Connect. It should take just a second to connect here. While it's doing its thing, we're going to run over here and grab this next command that is an import PS session using the session we just stored in that variable. All right, previous command is done. Let's go ahead and import that session. While it does its thing here, I'll just let you know we're going to see a little warning in a second. Nothing we need to be concerned with for our purposes. There are just a few unapproved verbs that were included in that import, but it doesn't have any bearing on what we're doing. We are now connected to Exchange Online. Let's move along to step 5, where we are enabling the unified messaging dial plan. Grab this whole thing. Now, as you'll see in here, we do need to go through and go over to the, let's see. Nope, we don't need to change anything in this one, actually. But let's pay attention. Our name here is going to be US 10 digits. This is the name of our dial plan. It's going to have 10 digits in the extension because it's just going to be a full US-based phone number. And then the country or region code is 1, again, for United States. Hit that. Boom, creates our dial plan. Let's take a gander back over at our Exchange Admin Center. This is what we saw earlier, but if we refresh, there it is, US 10 digits, our new dial plan with the 10 digits that we specified for the extension length. Very cool. Now, if we go back over to our instructions, we see that we need to switch over to a Skype for Business remote PowerShell window. Now, I'm going to use these commands over here to get that new window set up. So let's store our credentials on a new window. We'll move this window over just for clarity here, okay? New credentials, get credential. They're going to be the same ones as before. Keep in mind, we are now connecting to Skype for Business Online, not Exchange Online. We've stored those credentials. Let's import the Link Online connector module so that we can get Skype for Business Online specific commands. Once we've done that, we're going to create a new session and store it in a variable using the credentials previously provided. While it's doing its thing, we're going to run down here and grab our import PS session command using our new session variable. Ooh, let's see. Well, that's odd. I've run this a few times today, just testing it out, but it's claiming that couldn't resolve that. That's okay. Well, let's have a little bit of a problem. Let's just do an IP config flush DNS really quick to clear our DNS cache out. And let's try doing that. Well, okay. Okay. Did I type it in wrong? Yep, I did. Okay, there we go. Attention to detail. Our link discover.mscu guy, but I'm pretty sure it should be UC. Okay, let's go back up a couple steps. Let's redo our credential, typing things in correctly this time. Sometimes we just got to take a step back. And now we're going to import that module again. I don't even know if that was necessary. Let's do our link session again. It should go through properly this time because I know I have the link discover records in place for my msucguy.com domain. Once that's done, we can go ahead and place, okay, perfect. We're going to import that session. Again, it goes through a few steps up top. Good, 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 good. Now we're done. Let's go back to our TechNet article. Now this tells us to run 2 commandlets. And we look here and it looks like one big long commandlet. It's because they didn't really format this very nicely, and there's one commandlet right here. And at the end of our policy name, which is business voice, the new commandlet starts. So one more of those attention to detail things. We'll come back and grab that in a second. Put this over here. Oops. Okay. And this one, again, is because I did not, in too much of a hurry here, I did not get rid of the placeholder and put the identity of my account in here. Josh@msucguy.com. Enter. Now, you'll notice it says that this object was not changed, and that's because my user already has that hosted policy assigned at this time. So not a big deal, but we're already assigned. Let's go back and grab this other commandlet, and look at this commandlet. This says enable-um mailbox. There's no enable-cs. So we're not going to be running this in that Skype for Business remote PowerShell, even though the directions don't really say anything about that. So heads up, pay attention to that. That's something to keep in mind. Let's paste that over here on the Exchange side. Got a placeholder at the end for our user email address, or get Josh@msucguy.com in there. We got a user extension, which is going to be our 10-digit number I showed you, the Austin area code. Put that in. 512-593-8405. And then we're going to get rid of this email address placeholder here. Put my name in. Now, one last important thing. The way they put this on the page, under this mailbox policy, they put the name in here incorrectly. The name that we created for our dial plan is US 10 digits. And when you create that dial plan, the policy that's created by default is whatever the name of the dial plan is, space default policy. So this right here should actually be US 10 digits space default policy. So I have the default policy part correct, but we need to get rid of all that other junk they had in there and type it out properly. All right, we got everything in place. We hit that. And at this point, if you did not have Exchange Online Plan 2, you would get an error about your licensing validation. Instead, we see that unified messaging is enabled. We should be good to go with that. So awesome, good stuff. Let's jump back over to our portal. If we go to our portal here, we go up to recipients, we are going to refresh this screen really quick here, and we can see unified messaging is enabled. Awesome. Let's view the details here. All right, our dial plan is that US 10 digits that got created. Okay, very cool. There's our SIP address. PIN status, I'm not locked out, so that's good, right? We can reset the PIN here if we want to. And there's the mailbox policy that we talked about, the US 10 digits space default space policy. Personal operator extension doesn't apply here. I have no personal operator. And here's our little blurb about unified messaging being a premium feature requiring Plan 2. Click on our other extensions, and there's that extension phone number we've got. So very good. At this point in time, we'll just click cancel here. We can go ahead and get back off the screen. That's it. That's all there is to going back through a user who has been set up already for Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. As you see, they call it Skype voice within the control panel. This is how we go back in and set up voicemail for them, much the way you would expect in an on-premises environment where your voicemail is set up in Exchange via unified messaging. They do the same thing in Office 365. They use your Exchange Online mailbox, and they enable you for unified messaging, a premium feature. So at any rate, I hope you took note of how to do all that. I hope this helps you as you're finding your way through it. And please be careful if you're following this documentation later on from Microsoft. Remember those caveats that I put out there in case they haven't corrected those last couple steps yet. So, and at any rate, thank you for sticking with me and listening in. If this was a little too long, I apologize. We'll try to keep it a little shorter for the next one. But as always, stay techie, my friends.